Hello, I'm Alan Crone. I'm the CEO of the Crone Law Firm, and I'm here to bring you another one of our legal COVID updates. Many of you have text, emailed, messaged me and said how much you enjoy these videos, and I'm really glad that that's the case. I hope that people are getting value out of this, and I hope that I make somebody's life a little bit easier. That's my goal in putting these messages out. First, I want to kind of give an update to the lawyers and to those of you who may have legal issues. The General Sessions Court of Shelby County recently issued some guidance on their procedures, and I just thought I might pass it along to you. They are anticipating a large backlog of cases once in-person hearings resume in General Sessions Court. This is what a lot of people call small claims court. It's particularly on the civil side, these are cases where the amount in controversy is less than $25,000. You can have automobile accidents in there, overdue accounts. If you owe somebody money or somebody owes you money and it's less than $25,000, you might go here, breach of contract, that sort of thing. And so you can imagine, and this is pretty much across the board, once courts start operating again, there's going to be a rush to the courthouse because there's a big backlog of cases. And so the General Sessions Court put out some guidance to help ease that backlog, and I wanted to share it with you. The court requests that you make a diligent effort to settle as many cases as you can before coming to the courthouse. We will no longer suggest that you go to the hallway to discuss your matters on hearing dates. If a settlement is reached, you may present a written order signed by all parties to our division clerks for presentation to the court at any time on or prior to the hearing date. Attested copies can be picked up from the clerk or mailed to your office upon making the proper arrangement with the clerk's office. Make certain that each order and or consent agreement contains all the contact information for each party involved: names, addresses, telephone numbers, fax numbers, email addresses, should the court have any questions. Each of the 6 divisions will be severely and necessarily limiting the number of people in the courtroom at any given time. While each judge reserves the right to determine the number of people for their respective courtrooms, it will be in the neighborhood of 10 to 25, including lawyers, litigants, and court staff. Also, the hallways and other common areas cannot become overcrowded, so please be prepared to limit the number of cases that are set. Please be advised that any consent announcements via facsimile must be consented to by all parties, or they will not be accepted. And please assist in spreading the word that due to restrictions, only the person whose name appears on the case will be allowed to enter the courtroom and quite possibly the courthouse. So if you have to have somebody bring you to the courthouse, or someone is coming for moral support, they may not be able to get in. So those are just some indications from General Sessions Court that once things get back, I won't say back to normal, once they get going again, these are some important tips to help the process along. So I know lawyers and litigants are interested in that. If you have any questions, I think you can call the clerk's office at the Shelby County Courthouse. I want to talk a little bit, for business people out there, about business interruption insurance and other contractual provisions that you might have that provide for business interruption or other interruptions. And now is a good time to take a look at your contracts, your vendor contracts, your sales contracts, and see if there are any provisions in them that might apply to the situation we have now, where people's business processes are interrupted due to this pandemic. There are a number of different theories on the business interruption side, and insurance companies are taking a pretty aggressive stance right now. Basically, they're just denying claims. There are many arguments that can be made, and I think for businesses that have been completely shut down as a result of these stay-at-home orders or safer-at-home orders, or just due to maybe a pandemic outbreak at your facility, I think it's worth having a lawyer look at those agreements to see what kind of recourse you might have. Here at the Crone Law Firm, we've been looking at those agreements for folks. And one thing to look for is what kind of losses are covered. There are a number of contractual provisions in your insurance agreement, your commercial insurance agreement, that might come into play. And people tend to look at the civil authority or property loss or property damage categories, and those are good. But there's also other definitions in your policy which might be helpful as well. For example, your business losses might be defined in such a way that losses like this are covered. And we could do a whole 2-hour seminar on that. But if you have any questions about that, feel free to contact me and I'll be glad to walk you through it. The same thing with contracts. You may have supplier contracts or vendor contracts or customer contracts that anticipate a business interruption of this type. You need to know what those provisions are. You need to understand what your obligations are, what your rights are, and now is a good time to dust off those agreements and look at them. Also, now is a good time to start thinking about how you're going to respond when these government entities start to relax the restrictions that are currently in place. You read the CDC guidance and pronouncements coming out of the White House and in other places, I think you can accurately predict that there are going to be guidelines in place for social distancing, for capacity, for PPE for your employees and the general public. And if you haven't already started thinking through those issues, you ought to start thinking through them. And you ought to start thinking about a supply line for cleaning products, a supply line for maybe hand sanitizers, for touchless thermometers. I'll tell you, I ordered 2 yesterday. They're supposed to come in next week. I ordered them from Amazon. And here at my office, I have 2 floors. And so I wanted one for each floor because when we start having people come back into the office, they need to be tested to make sure they don't have a fever. And those touchless thermometers are already scarce. And I suspect once people start to realize they need them, they're going to get even more scarce. So I would go ahead and make your order for those kinds of materials right now. But think through and start meeting with your colleagues and partners and employees about how you can set up your workspace, whether it's an office or a retail establishment or any other kind of establishment or business. What's the safe way I can conduct business, still be profitable, but be a good community partner and offer my employees a good, safe working environment and a good, safe environment for your customers if you have customers coming in off the street or by appointment. I hope this broadcast has been helpful to folks. If you have any questions or need some follow-up, please give me a call. You can either respond, if you got this by email, you can respond to the email, or just Google me, Alan Crone, Attorney, Memphis, and I guarantee you'll find 3 different ways to contact me at that point. I hope everybody's doing well, and I look forward to seeing you all with or without a face mask very soon.